Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Drinkard Brews, the channel where I drinkard brew. Mostly it's going to be about Revised 40, Fallen Empires 40, sometimes Commander, and maybe a few other formats here and there. This time I am indeed talking about Revised 40 and want to share with you all some of my ideas about how to build combo decks in Revised 40. For the sake of this discussion, I do want to define what I mean by combo. I don't want to insult your intelligence and talk about what a combo in Magic the Gathering is, but when you're playing Revised 40, you do have to change your expectations a little bit. There's only one combo in Revised 40 that outright wins on the spot most of the time, and that is Channel Fireball. And Channel is restricted, and usually that combo is used in aggro decks as reach and a finisher, and not really a combo. So, what I mean instead is when we're putting two or greater cards together to achieve an advantage on the board or to deal a massive amount of damage to the opponent. So sometimes these don't outright win the game, but instead they help us to win the game if we can assemble them. Another thing that I don't mean by combo in Revised 40 is when we're trying to assemble cards to achieve a bunch of value or to have a non-deterministic engine or Rube Goldberg device that goes off and may or may not achieve anything. I do know of 3 decks that are engine-based decks and have lots of game actions in Revised 40. I love to play them, but I will be talking about those in a different video, especially if you are all interested in hearing about them. Okay, so one of the first combos that ever existed in Magic the Gathering, literally the way Richard Garfield intended Magic to be played, is with the card Stasis. Wizards doesn't print too many cards like Stasis anymore. The card is not modern legal. I think it's a really sweet, fun card. It's one of the first combos that I saw in a Scry or Duelist or Inquest way back in the day when I was playing with 4th edition and Ice Age cards, and people combined Stasis with Black Vice and Despotic Scepter and Boomerang to win the game. So Stasis has this upkeep cost of 1 blue mana, and you're not going to be able to untap your islands to pay that upkeep cost every turn. So what people decided they would do instead, even way back in 1993, is use Birds of Paradise and Instill Energy. They would untap their birds every turn with Instill Energy's effect and use birds to pay the blue mana upkeep cost of Stasis. Then no one would ever be able to untap again. So how can we recreate that in R40? What happens? What's the problem? Well, we combine 3 Stasis, and if we want to have an equal number of Birds of Paradise, we find out we can't because they're both rare, and Revised 40 limits us to 5 rare cards. Because of this design restriction, we look at the rest of the card pool. What can we do? We find that Ley Druid will substitute in for a 3rd Bird of Paradise. We use Ley Druid to untap an island. We untap Ley Druid with Instill Energy, and we can continue paying Stasis's upkeep cost. And like other formats, we can use Black Vice to win the game, or do something fun like put Instill Energy on an attacking creature, a Juggernaut, an Air Elemental, a Crawl Worm, whatever we want. And we can win the game that way instead. So my first rule of thumb for us is to build a combo that includes at least 1 non-rare card. You can combine uncommons with uncommons. You can combine rares with uncommons. You can combine rares with commons. And that way we'll have that reliability and access to both combo pieces that we will need to assemble them during games. Let's take a look at our rares in Revised, and I want you to consider what commons and uncommons can you think of to work with these cards that I think are sweet combo pieces in the format. These rares include Drain Power, Nevinyrral's Disc, Fungasaur, and others to come, but first let's talk about these 3. What commons and uncommons can you use to take advantage of massive amounts of mana that your opponents give you with their lands for Drain Power? Or how can you take advantage of them having to tap their lands using common cards? What common and uncommon creatures can you regenerate with Veneral's Disc to achieve an overwhelming board state that the opponent won't be able to get past? And what commons and uncommons can you use to repeatedly deal damage to your Fungasaur, or to make sure that he lives through damage and gets those +1/+1 counters? I bet you can think of some. Our next row of 3 rares that are sweet combo pieces includes Sorcerer's Queen, Cormus Bell, and Magical Hack. In particular, the last 2 can be combined together, and we'll talk about those later in the video. But with Sorcerer's Queen, what creatures of ours are better if our opponent's creatures are limited to 0-2? And our final 3 cards that I'm going to mention in this video, but I'm sure you can think of others, are Royal Assassin, Power Surge, and Sleight of Mind. How can we tap down the opponent's creatures using commons or uncommons and destroy them with Royal Assassin? There are commons that tap them down. There are uncommons, multiple uncommons in the format that require the opponent's creatures to attack. And then we can use Royal Assassin to kill them. With Power Surge, there are plenty of mana sinks in the format. What commons and uncommons can you think of that let us tap down our lands and not take any damage from Power Surge, all the while reducing the opponent's life total? And there are all sorts of color hoses in Revised. Which ones can we combine with Sleight of Mind to prevent the opponent from being able to beat us, or to punish the opponent for the cards that he or she has? Let's look at one example and follow this rule by combining a rare with a non-rare. Looking at Magical Hack. Magical Hack lets us replace one land word with another in a card's text. And so cards that come to mind for me are Flash Fires and Tsunami, or Conversion and Karma. Karma is an awesome card in the format because mono black is very strong, but Karma is less good when the opponent is not playing swamps. It won't deal any damage to the opponent for those unless you combine it with a card like Magical Hack. So we assemble this combo, Karma and Magical Hack, and change the word swamp into a land type that an opponent has and start to deal the opponent damage. All the while, the rest of our deck can have Swords to Plowshares and Disenchants and counterspells to prevent the opponent from winning while we reduce their life total to 0. And the problem with this is, what if our opponent is playing blue and white? We'll have to replace the word swamp on Karma with either island or plains, and then we're going to start dealing damage to ourselves as well. Unfortunately for us, since a lot of our cards are combo pieces, this means that our life total is probably going to be lower than the opponent's. They're probably going to be attacking in with creatures, and we're going to hurt ourselves. So my second rule for building combo in Revised 40 is to build combos that hurt the opponent. Don't have equal opportunity combos that destroy yourselves as well as the opponents. If we take that combo before and replace Karma instead with Cormus Bell, now all swamps or whatever land type we choose with Magical Hack are going to be 1/1 creatures. And you may be thinking now, Cormus Bell is a rare, Magical Hack is a rare. That's against rule number 1, but we can combine Cormus Bell in addition with Phantasmal Terrain and have some redundancy between Terrain and Magical Hack that gives us that reliability we want by alternating rarities with our Revised 40 combos. So now some type of land is going to be a 1/1 creature. And within this color blue, we have Prodigal Sorcerer and Rod of Ruin to destroy only the opponent's lands and not hurt ourselves in the process. And eventually, we're going to be the only ones that get to play Magic because we've turned their lands into creatures and then later destroyed those creatures. And eventually, we can use Prodigal Sorcerers, Rod of Ruin, Black Vice, or something to eliminate the opponent from the game. So this has followed rule number 1 to build around combo pieces that have alternating rarities. This follows rule number 2 of only attacking the opponent and not hurting ourselves in the process. But still, we've ended up with something a little bit janky. And so that brings me to rule number 3, which is none of these rules matter. These are simply guidelines, and you can build whatever you want and have fun. I do want to give this legal disclaimer. I have no association with Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro. I am simply a fan of some things they made a long time ago. If you have any feedback, I'd love to hear about it. I love this format. I love this game. I'm trying to let everyone join along in the ride and enjoy this merriment with me. But I want to have good content for you to make it the most fun for us all. Please follow me or check out what I have going on at Revised 40 at Instagram. And you can go see combos and deck picks and some deck text that I've taken and written there. And of course, I would love to hear back from you on YouTube as well. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Goodbye.